can't join us. So thanks again for joining us today. The plan for today is to really explore and dig into this whole idea of authoring and remixing using these digital tools. And I was really happy to see that some of you are already doing that, which was really great. So thanks for giving it a try. It was nice to see folks in there using the tools. And, before we dig into, I want to go directly to the site to really explore some of these resources and tools. But I just wanted to take a minute before we go to the live site to just really think about why we're doing this work. I know, especially this time of year, there's graduation and, there's a lot going on, a lot of planning, a lot of wrapping up the school year. But just to take a pause to really think about, why it's important that we share and, our expertise, our resources, why it's important that we collaborate not only with our colleagues on our campuses, but also across the state. This is such a unique opportunity for us to support each other and share what we know. So it's super exciting. And as a Californian myself, I just love the fact that y'all are doing this great work. So, sharing is something that I know people have different feelings about, and that's okay if maybe you're a little resistant to, sharing what you know, or maybe you feel some kind of way about sharing your expertise. But really, when we think about why we get into teaching, sharing for the benefit of not only our colleagues that we work with on our campuses and across the state, but also our students and their learning, is a wonderful benefit of doing this work. And there's some really great, connections that can be made not only across your institutions, but even, globally. This is a global site, so there are folks that use these resources all over the world. So sometimes that's pretty exciting to see the impact when you share something, and if you allow folks to remix it, you get notifications. And we've had faculty get notifications from, every continent except Antarctica, I guess, but maybe someday. So there's a lot of possibility here when we start sharing our work. So I hope that you're excited by that, and maybe you already have some ideas in mind of what you might want to on this site. So just wanted to take a moment to recognize the importance of this great work that you all are undertaking. So I'm going to share my screen. Speaking of sharing, I'm going to share my screen, and we're going to go right to the site and start to explore some of these tools. And really what we're going to do today is kind of go through the workflows of how to start authoring resources. So we'll look at some of the authoring tools that we have available and kind of see, what the options are there for how you might want to start to design and publish these resources. And we'll also take a look at our tools for remixing. So I think remixing is one of the most exciting things that we see folks do when you see kind of how content lives in different settings with different students and different needs and priorities. So we'll look at that workflow. And then, as always, really would love any questions that you all have, or, ideas maybe that come up. I think where kind of our last session was more just getting familiar with our hub. I think this one is really great I'd love to just hear kind of what's top of mind for you all and what questions you have. And also this is an opportunity to support each other. So if folks are kind of struggling with where to get started or want to do some brainstorming on, what would be of highest need right now in terms of kind of content areas, we can certainly use this time to brainstorm and support each other in those ways as well. And Oh, yeah. Hi, Barbara. Oh, and you have a little learner with
I
you.
have a little learner with us again. Yes, and I wanted to just thank the Michelson 20mm Foundation for funding our California Community College Hub. And I'm excited that the Academic Senate did their OERI group did a webinar a few weeks ago where they showed 3 authoring tools, and OER Commons is one that they're showing and supporting. So I just really wanted to take this minute to thank the foundation for doing this for all of California community colleges, and I'm hoping that people will use it all.
Yes, absolutely. Well, and it's so wonderful, Barbara, that you're, leading this work, because your history with, publishing and authoring is, you're really a leader and a champion in this space with the work that you've done with OpenStax authoring statistics. And so it's so wonderful that you're encouraging others to do this as well. And I don't know if you want to say any words for, folks that maybe are just getting started, or,
Sure.
recommendations or advice for kind of where to begin.
Sure. The first is just do it, and don't worry about the criticisms that are going to come, because you get them, but you get a lot more compliments and a lot more thanks and appreciation. I am going to put my email address in here so that if you have questions about authoring, not on using OER Commons, but just like, yikes, I think I want to share, what do I do? I'd be glad to uh, offline help you out for all of that. I'm really delighted to do so. And I think having been one of the very first open textbook authors, what I learned is that as people say, oh, I think we're going to make this change, and you say, great, and putting things out is what makes everything better. I would definitely say that the OpenStax introductory stats book is so much better than when Sue and I first wrote it, because people contributed to it and they made suggestions, and we took some and we didn't take some. So a lot of times people sent us suggestions. Generally, they were really polite suggestions that said, hey, by the way, here's another way. Sometimes they were rude suggestions. But either way, if we thought the suggestion was really valuable for our student learning, we incorporated it immediately into the open text, because it's an OER. If we thought, okay, it's just not what we need, we said, thanks, because we have a Creative Commons license on it, you're willing to download this, modify, and upload it, change it to what you need for your students. And that was how we handled every suggestion, every complaint, everything that was sent was just, this is a great way because you can modify it. And what we found was that after we put the book out there, a professor from University of Minnesota wrote a 1,000 question test bank, because she said, oh, the book is free, I'll write a test bank. And professors from around the country started contributing more, and it became a community. And that's part of why we need the OER Commons now. It's not just a matter, like for mine, it's under OpenStax, and it's not even mine anymore. I consider it a community book. But for everything else, if we share an OER Commons, one of the largest OER repositories in the world, we can find things, we can share, we can add to it, others can add to it, and then we can adopt it back. So that's all I want to say, because I want to let Megan get on with everything else. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Barbara. It's wonderful to have your leadership and expertise in here as well. And yes, I think it's so exciting just to think of the possibilities and all the input and collaboration that can happen, once you put your work out there, like Barbara has found. So hopefully you'll embark on similar paths yourselves. And to do that, let's hop on over to the site. And I'm hoping everyone can see my browser. Sometimes Zoom's a little funky, but it looks like we're good. So I'm assuming most of you attended or at least viewed the last one. So I won't do a large introduction on the site. But as Barbara said, we are a digital library. Initially when we started in 2007, it was really just bringing together the best resources we could from library science to create this digital library where folks could access high quality open educational resources. And the legacy of OER and the leadership with especially higher ed faculty like yourselves was really kind of what catapulted this work forward. And now we're seeing, a lot of work happening in K-12 and, informal settings, and it's super exciting. So, from that initial, okay, let's create this library to today, there have been a lot of tools and features that have been added to OER Commons based off of the conversation that we're always having with educators like yourselves, which is, what do you need and how can we help you, share and collaborate and improve your courseware to really impact teaching and learning. So over the years, we have added more tools for collaboration and authoring. And of course, our hubs are one of those. And our authoring tools have really evolved over the years as well. And they will continue to as we continue to do, user-centered design and really understand better what faculty need in terms of authoring tools. So we're always iterating on these designs. And I'm going to show you a couple options for authoring. And, just know that we're always making improvements and all of your feedback is really, really appreciated. So I'm going to, this is just the homepage for OER Commons. I'm going to head directly to our hub, which is the California Community College Hub. And it's on our featured hubs, but you can also access it just by looking at all the hubs. I know we talked about some of the other community college hubs from other states and looked at some work in Michigan. But today we're just going to focus in on our California Community College Hub. And so in here, as we looked at last time, we have our groups and collections, and really we'd like to encourage your workflow to really be from your groups. So hopefully all of you have joined your college group. They're in alphabetical order, and there's different tabs because we have so many in California, which is so wonderful. And in Michigan, where we've been working the past few years, that I think they only have 28 community colleges, but we have, I know, over 100 in California, which is wonderful. So lots of collaboration opportunities here. And so we've been working over the years with Skyline Community College. So I'm just gonna work from that college since I'm not directly associated with any colleges, but I want to work from Skyline today. So, from your groups, there's a lot of things that can happen. Like we looked at last time, you can save resources, organize folders, things like that. But from here, you can also start authoring. And in this green tab here, where it says contribute to this group, if you're not a member of your group yet, the green tab will show a link that says join this group. So you have to be approved to join the group, I think, for most of the groups. But once you're a member of the group, there are a couple different ways that you can contribute resources to the group. So you can see here, the first one is submit. And basically what that means is, let's say there's a resource that's already online and open that isn't a part of our digital library that you would like to submit to the site. You can do that here. And basically how that works is you put in the URL and a little bit of information about the resource. And what happens is that goes to our team of digital librarians who are, one kind of layer of quality control on the site, and they will check the link and the information you provided. And if all looks good, they'll add it to the site. If they have questions, they might circle back to you. But I know some folks maybe want to submit things that are already existing online, so you can certainly do that there. But really what we're going to focus on today are these different authoring tools. So as our site has evolved to meet the needs of educators around the world, so have our tools. And right now we have 3 different authoring tools, and we're kind of moving towards just having one. But in the spirit of, you know, design and innovation, we'll look at those 3 tools today, because maybe one will kind of interest you more than the others. So the first one is Resource Builder, and this is our first tool that we released. And really it's a blank slate, if you will. It doesn't have much structure to it. You can give the resource a title. There is a WYSIWYG editor here that maybe some of you are familiar with if you've used other authoring tools online, where you can, you know, do some things for formatting, you know, make bullets, numbers, indents, things like that. You can also create the table of contents and kind of the structure of the resource. So give it headers, subheaders. Paragraph is just kind of regular text. You can put in quotes. A lot of people I've noticed kind of start at the table of contents. They like to kind of structure the resource to get started. But this is, you know, really where you can be creative and use your kind of design hat to make the resource look and feel the way that you want. And you can, I'm just going to kind of play around here. I'll show you some actual resources in a minute, but so you can, you know, do some editing here. You can, you know, of course, make things bold, italic, underline, colors, highlights, all kinds of fun stuff. I think one of the most exciting things around authoring digital content is the opportunity to make things really interactive and engaging. And so want to encourage folks to do things like, you know, put in hyperlinks. You can also insert different media. So, you know, this is where you can embed images, videos. You can grab things from your computer if you have different files or documents or, you know, resources from your computer that you want to add to the to what you're authoring. You can do that here, or you can also grab things from online. So if there's an image from Flickr that you want to add, or you know, maybe a video from YouTube, you can easily embed things like that in the resource. And then for, you know, some of you who are math faculty, we also have LaTeX symbols so that you can do, you can add math quotations to the resource as well. So this is our kind of first iteration of the tool here, and you can really kind of, you know, make it what you want. You can add multiple units if you want. You can add co-authors, which is something really exciting. You know, when we're thinking about collaboration, you can add folks by putting in their email, and they will be co-authors on your resource. You can import things from Google Docs. I know some folks have a lot of resources on Google Docs, so you can certainly do that as well. Also, OneDrive Word documents you can import. So I would say kind of the bulk of the work happens here in this writing or editing phase. So this is where you can, you know, be an instructional designer and you know, flex those skills to make your resource look and feel the way you want. The next step for authoring is kind of transitioning away from design and thinking more like a digital librarian, and this is the describe page. So this is where you're basically putting different tags and keywords and descriptors to help folks find your resource and really kind of understand what's there. So you give it a short abstract, you can give it an image, you can choose the subjects, who the primary user is, if it's for students, or maybe this is for instructors or teachers. The educational use, if this is an assessment or something for instruction or professional development. So there's different descriptors here, and basically this is kind of some of the back end stuff that you're getting to see here. This is really kind of how we've worked with our librarians to really structure the site so that every resource is has these different descriptors on it. So if this is for community college, the language, the material type, you can select more than one. So let's say this is an activity, and it's also an assessment. You can put those in there. You can also add any learning goals that you want to put out there, any specific keywords that you want to have there. And then for standards, that's more for K-12. So this is the digital kind of librarian phase here, where you're doing all that great describing of the resource so folks can know what it is and find it easily. And the last phase of authoring is to choose a license. And like Barbara has used on her textbook, we use a Creative Commons licensing here, which is very commonly used throughout OER. And basically, just like our site, the Creative Commons has kind of had different licenses over time, but right now it's basically just two questions. Do you want to allow modifications of your work? Yes or no, or yes, as long as others share alike. And what that means is as long as others use a Creative Commons license as they modify it and share it. And I really encourage folks to say yes to allowing modifications, because that allows folks to remix your resource. And that doesn't mean that they're allowed to edit your original resource. It's just that they can make a copy and put their own spin on it, if you will.
And can I just add a couple of things?
Sure.
Yeah, one is I will just tell you that I use the most lenient license. I allow the modifications and I allow the commercial use because of the fact that it leads to innovation on other people's part to do innovation that I can't do, and then I get to use it. So I get to use it as well. And and people sometimes are worried, what if somebody steals what I did and make money off of it? Well, it's all free up there. So anything that somebody does commercially, students will get your part free forever, so they can find it. So I really encourage that. Also, it's the one that we've recommended from the Michelson Foundation, that people use the Creative Commons attribution. And so you would, on allow modifications, put yes, and commercial use yes. And then as just a reminder, it does nothing to change what you have. And with a license, they're required to still give attribution back to you. So you're not losing anything, and nobody's going to earn on your back. The students will still have the free material free. So I just want to encourage that. Thanks.
Great. Yes, thank you so much. And that's helpful to know what the Michelson Foundation recommends. And yeah, there's great opportunity to make your resources as freely usable and shareable as possible. So yeah, those two questions will give you a Creative Commons license, and as Barbara said, this is the attribution license. So that's really the last step. So once you have completed and described your resource, selected your license, then it's time to click publish. And basically what happens there is once you've published a resource, that again goes to our team of digital librarians, who will just check and make sure all looks well, and then publish from there. So, they're not all content experts in all content areas, so they're not going to be, getting into the the nitty gritty detail of things, but they will be, just checking, doing kind of a general quality control checking before publishing. Oh, and I just saw in chat here, Catherine shared, if you're doing a project with OERI's funding this summer or fall, you need to use the CC BY license. Okay, great. So it sounds like there are some recommendations in place for which licenses to use.
And also, if you ever have a grant from the Chancellor's office, you probably don't see the actual details of the grant. Your business office person does, but all materials approved from the Chancellor's office grants require CC BY license as well. So just to know that, because I never read the grant signature stuff, but they all require CC BY when you have a grant from the Chancellor's office.
Okay, great. Thank you. So that is the resource builder. Now, the next iteration of our authoring tools is lesson and module builder. And there's not too much of a difference between the two. It's really just lesson has more kind of K-12 terminology and geared towards folks in K-12 who are authoring, and module is more for higher education. So we would be using the module builder. And based off of feedback that we received from folks who, wanted to have a little bit more structure to their authoring and other features, this is our next tool, 2.0, I guess, or it's probably more than that many iterations, but we'll call this 2.0. So here, not too different. You give your resource a title. You can select an opening image, either from your computer or, you can find something online. And you can immediately start attaching resources here on your front section here. So maybe there are PowerPoints or links to things that you want to add. So that is kind of that first section of what folks will see: the title and opening image, and then any kind of resources up front that you want to share. And of course, you can bring things from online or from your computer and add them to the resource. And then we have these different sections, and this was where folks wanted a little bit more structure. So they wanted to be able to have different sections and student-facing content, and then instructor geared content. So here again, we have our WYSIWYG editor that we had on our previous tool, but this content would be specifically geared towards students. So this would be what the students view either when you're showing this in class or if they're accessing it from a device. So this would be specifically geared towards the student view. So that's the main kind of distinguisher here, is that you can have student-facing content and instructor-facing content. Which we heard from folks was something that they really wanted. So again, you can, format your resource and, include your text here. You can attach different resources to these different components here. You can have specific instructor content that would just be geared towards the instructors that would be using this resource. And you can create multiple sections as well. And at any time you can preview the resource to kind of see how it looks. And of course, add co-authors here, just as we did before. We really want to encourage, co-authoring and collaboration. So it's just kind of a different kind of structure. I mean, it's really the same kind of tools here, but just structured a little bit differently. So this is the module builder. And again, as before, you do your writing phase here in this edit mode. And then the next step is to put on your digital librarian hat and fill out the descriptors so that folks can easily access it. And of course, choose your license. So similar workflow, but just a little bit of a different structure. And I was gonna just show, since we're looking at just kind of the blank slate here, I wanted to just show some examples of what some published resources look like. But at any time, if folks have questions or want to see something again, feel free to chime in. I'm hoping that the tools seem pretty intuitive to folks, but I wanted to just show some published resources here, and this is in our biology folder here for Skyline. There is a biology, the cell book in here. And so there are multiple modules, but just to give you a sense of what a published resource might look like. So here they have this studying cell, image here. They have an overview of what this section will explore. Here are the different sections. They have mostly text here, some hyperlink images. So this is what we would say is like the instructor facing view, and this is an OpenStax resource. So I know some of you are already using some of these. So this has all the information here, and it also has some review questions at the end. So this is kind of the instructor facing view. And then if you want to look at the student view, what you can do is just click on this, and it also gives you a link. So if you wanted to put this in your learning management system, or whatever you use to share with students. And here's what the student facing view would look like. So here are the different sections. And so it looks like there's some reading in this section. Again, here's section 2, and then section 3, and here's the summary. And then here we have our review questions at the end of the sections. So that's an example of what the module builder published might look like. And are there any questions there? Okay. One thing just to show too, as I mentioned, the remix, we really want to support remix. There's a couple different things you can do with these resources as you're exploring. And maybe you'll find some of these resources that have been created in our authoring tools. You can, of course, save them to your groups. You can remix them. So just by clicking on, you have to be logged in to do this, but if you click on remix, basically what happens is it creates a copy of this resource in edit mode, and you can start editing. And because this is part of a larger series of modules, you can create a standalone lesson module, or you can keep it as part of the unit. And so what happens when you do that is you're automatically in edit mode here. And if I were to edit this, and maybe I would want to add some images or take out a section or move the sections around, once I publish my remixed resource, the exciting thing that happens is that original author will get a notification that said, somebody just remixed your resource, here's a link to their new resource, which is super exciting. That's happened to me a few times, and it's just really wonderful to see. Sometimes they get translated in different languages to be used in classrooms across the world, or maybe they're kind of modified to fit a different subject focus or emphasis. So really interesting to see kind of how these resources live on beyond the work that we share. So that is an example of a published, oops, sorry, I'm trying to go back here and it's looking funky, of a published module. See something in chat. Can I ask how we give attribution? Oh, that's a great question. So once something is remixed, it automatically gives that original author attribution. So you don't have to worry about that if you're remixing using these authoring tools. It automatically, within the metadata, we call it, like of the resource, the descriptions of the resource, it automatically attributes the original author and links to their original resource. So that's kind of a fun thing too, to kind of track, you know, remix and the evolution of resources. So great question. So that's a published module builder one. And I just want to show an example of, and I think most of you saw this last time, of a resource builder published resource. So this is our kind of 1.0 tool. And this one was a textbook that a faculty member actually in Michigan created. His name's Mark Kelland. He's created 3 different resources. He actually did this on his sabbatical. So if some of you are wondering, how do you find the time to do this? You know, he was able to create 3 textbooks on his sabbatical. So good for him, but we don't all have that time. So I just wanted to show this just so you could see what a published resource looks like. So this is his personality theory textbook that he created in the resource builder. And here you can see this is how he structured it. These are the different components. And when you click on view, or you can, you know, click on any of these different sections, you can see his resource. And so if I wanted to remix this resource, it's a little bit different looking, because he used our resource builder, not our module builder. But I just click on remix this resource, and again, what happens is now I have a copy in my resource builder of this resource, and I can start, you know, modifying it to make it look and feel how I want. So that's the, you know, we tried to make it super simple, and we really encourage remix. So hopefully that's easy for folks. And, you know, once you're in edit mode, again, you know, you're editing a copy, not the original resource. So you can, you know, get rid of sections, change things up, add images. You know, there's a lot of text here. So maybe you would want to make this more interactive and insert some media to this resource. So lots of options here.
I have
and
a
again,
question, Megan.
Yeah.
So as people are creating resources, sometimes it's going to be textbook substitute, sometimes it might be homework, it might be projects, labs. Excuse me, can you explain how you can do the tagging? So for example, if somebody happens to be making a homework module that goes with an OpenStax book, how they can tag it so that the OpenStax hub people would find it, or if you're making something for microbiology, how you can tag your resource, because I saw that in there. Yeah.
Yes, definitely. So
Thank you.
yeah, great question. Thanks, Barbara. So in the describe section, you can add different keywords, and actually any user can add any keyword at any time to any resource. So you know, some folks really use tags and keywords to really curate collections that way. You know, you can do it within your group folders, but there's definitely, sorry, it looks like things are going kind of slow here. So let me just get back. So there are, you know, a couple different ways you can do things, but let's say And oh, one thing I want to show too is at any time, so let's say like something funky happens with your computer, like just what happened with me. So at any time when you go to your items, uh, here's my profile here, all of your drafts are there. So let's say something, messes up and you're like, oh gosh, what happened? Did I lose my work? Your work should automatically be saved and be here in draft mode if you haven't published it yet in my items. So if I want to get back to this, resource that I was remixing here, I can do that. So, and I'll just click on edit. So I'm back in edit mode. So in describe is where you can add those keywords. So let's say that I want to add this to the OpenStax or kind of, have it show up or kind of flag OpenStax psychology textbook. I can put in keywords like OpenStax or, psychology so that folks can see it if they're searching for things like that. You can also look at the resource. Let's say like if you look at the OpenStax textbook that maybe you want to be associated with and see what keywords they're using and use some of those just so that they'll be a little bit more aligned to each other. And I'm not sure if there is like a formal way that folks are tagging resources for OpenStax ancillary materials, but I know folks are working in the OpenStax hub to curate some of those resources and share them in the groups. So we can look at that too, but sorry, it looks like things are kind of slow here. Maybe I'll try a different resource. Maybe this one's just not wanting to do it. So yeah, so there's different ways that you can add keywords in your description of the resource. And let's say you've already published it and you want to go back, you can always go back and edit your resource. So I think that's one thing that folks need to be reminded of too, because typically we're kind of used to like, printing something or, having a textbook in our hands, but at any time, because these are digital resources, we can go back and tweak things. And that's something too with continuous improvement. I really like to emphasize too, is that it's great to come back and maybe edit things once you've done them with your students and you have a new sense of what you might want to tweak or change. So that reflective practice can be really helpful too as we're being designers and authors. So here I am in module builder here, and I just wanted to show here's the keywords that were used for this particular module. So at any time you can add more, so you can see there's quite a few here. Let's say I wanted to add microbiology. And, so you can see here some of the existing tags that folks are using, which shows up, which is kind of nice. So, some have even put like, microbiology 101 for an introductory course, I'm assuming. And then, maybe you'd want to put OpenStax in there, and you can see here some of the keywords that some of the OpenStax folks have used. Yeah, so at any time you can add keywords, and I'm not gonna publish this though, but I also, for keywords you can add things directly to resources. So let's say I'm just gonna go down to some of our collections here. So let's say these NOBA psychology resources. I'm just going to pick the first one here, Biochemistry of Love. So this is that descriptor page, the metadata page, and you're seeing a lot more here because I have more, more kind of privileges on here. I can deaccession resources, but I'm not going to do that. But here is, you can see the different tags. So as you're, searching and looking for resources, we have, crowdsourced tagging too. So these authors from Nova Psychology gave these specific tags to this resource, but you can also add your own tags that will be associated with the resource. So, if I wanted to add a psychology tag to this resource, I could do that. I'll just delete it so I'm not messing with with it. So yeah, the use of tags is super exciting and something that we see folks do quite a bit to help resources, be found or associated with each other. So yeah, and maybe we'll just take a look at some of the OpenStax resources just to see how they've been. Just take a look at the algebra textbook. So here, oh, this is interesting. Here are some custom tags that folks have added here for different projects. So you might see some kind of funky looking tags that you might not know what they are, but these would be for some custom projects where people from, this is a North Carolina project and Missouri, where they're giving some tags to resources they want to show up in their collection. So yeah, tags are fun. So feel free to use them as you like to describe resources and organize resources. All right, so y'all have had some great questions. I wanted to just pause again and see if anyone has any other questions or comments. If there's anything else you'd like to see. That was kind of what I wanted to cover in terms of some of the authoring workflows and remixing workflows. But since we have a few more minutes, I would love just to open it up for any questions or comments you all have. And if you don't have any, then I have one for you all, which is, I would just love to know what folks are thinking in terms of authoring. If you're already kind of, excited to get started and maybe even have some resources that you want to start adding, I think that would just be nice to know kind of across the state, what is top of mind for folks to get started, what, course areas you're interested in or types of authoring you want to do, just to kind of get a sense of what people are thinking in terms of next steps. So that's my question, but I'm open to to other questions too. So yeah, feel free to unmute yourself or chime in chat if you have a question or response to my question about what your next steps are in terms of authoring. Great. Oh, so a print version available. What are the best ways to approach that? So all of these resources can be downloaded to be printed. That hopefully that answers that. I do know there are some interesting collaborations that I've seen in community colleges with their bookstores or printers on campus to if they want folks to have a printable version. So I'm not sure if Barbara or others want to chime in on those, but we've definitely seen that.
Well, so it's really up to you how you want to do it. With a CC BY license, you can still print. You can go to your bookstore. You can print on demand services, however you want to, whenever you want to do it. Having the CC BY license doesn't restrict printing for that. And I know that we found that it was a lot for people who wanted a hard copy. It was a lot less expensive to get something printed and bound than to print off of our printers at home for something. But I would suggest you figure out what works best at your college for printing.
Great. And I see some really wonderful questions and comments in chat, so I want to make sure that we get to those. So, but of course, folks, feel free to chime in too if you want your voice to be heard.
Oh yeah, I wanted to answer one question about the Canvas course. So if you're creating your Canvas course, the course shells, and we actually did a webinar, not here, but on the course shells, you can go into, if you don't already have a course shell, you can start to use the template that the OEI developed, and you go into Canvas Commons, and I'll put it in here. You search CCC, OER, OEI, and you can get templates for all, not templates, course shells for all of the OpenStax books, plus an empty one for you to upload it. So if you're uploading in Canvas, and that's terrific, but the issue there is that the only people who then will see your materials are the people who have access to Canvas. And what we find is that many of our faculty who teach online, who teach face-to-face, and especially our adjuncts who are not teaching online, is if they're not using Canvas, they don't see the materials. So you can upload to many places, and I would, like, as strongly as I could possibly encourage you to upload to OER Commons, because it's someplace that everybody can go into. You don't even have to log in. You can just tell your adjuncts, go in and search. You only need to log in if you want to author or control or do something, but to download materials, you don't need to. And it's especially valuable for people who don't have a Canvas account, or if your Canvas materials aren't in aren't in Canvas Commons, then you also can't get them. Some of the schools are restricting their Canvas Commons so that they're only sharing out what's within their own college as opposed to what's within the state or the world. So it's really valuable to share it in here. I'm gonna let Megan take the other questions, and I'll put in that material. I did want to answer to Nadra that there are also a lot of materials for ASL and ESL, and you can find them, and I'll put the link, I'll put the URL for that also. If you join CCC OER, which is the Community College Consortium for Open Ed Resources, if you join that listserv, Larry Green from Lake Tahoe keeps a running list of, it's organized by discipline of what questions people have asked for materials, and I know ASL was one, and what resource if you don't find something in here. This is where I always come to look first. I go into OER Commons and I would put in ESL or ASL, which is what Nadra had asked, and then if I don't find it, then I will go back to the other part, and I'll let Megan answer Carlos's and the other questions from down here.
Yes,
Thanks.
wonderful, thanks. But yeah, please chime in at any time. So I want to start just with Sarah. If faculty get approved for funding, would they be able to use these tools? Yes, please. These tools are open to anyone. You know, you don't have to be a member of the hub, but since you all are, you know, part of this hub, we want to encourage you to do this work in your groups in the hub, so we can see what you're doing and sharing. So yes, please use these tools. And so that was Sarah B. Sarah H. I wanted to just show this group from Boise State, and I'll put it in the chat here since you're doing some work on language learning. This is some really interesting work out of Boise State in Idaho, and they are working with students, and they're creating these pathways for language teaching. Anyways, so there's some really interesting stuff happening, you know, across the world. And since you're working on some language learning, I just wanted to share that with you from Boise State. And of course, if you have questions, you know, I'd be happy to connect you with them. So let's see. And I know there's a lot of there's some great stuff out of the University of Texas too around language OER. So, happy searching. And, this would be, we have some stuff curated in the hub, but for things that maybe we haven't curated yet, like around language learning, you can certainly use the larger library and search from oercommons.org to do that and start to bring resources into your groups. Let's see. So super exciting. Faculty are creating ESAL and ASL. Great. You can tag people to view it. Ooh, that's really interesting. You can add people as co-authors and they would, be collaborators in there. But for viewing, I would say, if you want to share it, you can do that within your group. But we don't really have a specific way to tag individuals. That's interesting though. And I know my colleague Ahmed is on the call. So I don't know if he has any thoughts about kind of notifying people. Of course, you can always share the link or, we can tweet it or things like that. But that's a really interesting question that hasn't come up for me. So thanks for that. We'll get back to you if we have any, any ideas about that.
I mean, sorry. The question is to notify other people on resource submitted?
Yes.
On the group.
The question is, if we publish a book or article, can you tag different people so they can view it?
If you publish, well, you could add them in the co-author if you want them to review it. That's one of the things that you could use it for people to share. And the other thing, if it's in a group, and you're in a folder, specific folder, subject folder, you could start a discussion on it that would send the members of this group or in this discussion will get notification about it, and you could start discussion about it. I think these are two ways you could involve other users.
Oh, that's great. Yeah, I didn't think of using the discussion in groups for that. That's a really good idea.
Yeah. Cool. Okay. Barbara's asking to add a co-author. Need to have an OER common account. Yes. Yes, they do need to have an OER Commons account to be able to add them as a co-author.
Great. And I see from Charlotte, she's remixed some OER into Word docs to make it easier for others to remix. Yeah, certainly you can upload the Word doc or you can copy and paste the Word doc in the authoring tool, which would make, folks able to remix it easier who use the tool. But yeah, certainly anything that you publish on OER Commons is searchable and downloadable. So as long as you hit that publish button and you're not just leaving it in draft mode, people will be able to access it. So thanks, Charlotte. Well, I'm just reading Sarah's other question. You want to collect all the OER link your faculty have adopted, even though they're hosted elsewhere, just to see what you're using. I'm not sure about that. I mean, I think our intention is that folks will save resources in the group so we can see what people are using for, the different departments on campus. But to kind of, maybe others have ideas on that, just to, if you want to get a sense of what others are using right now, if they're using OER. I'm not sure about that. Sarah, maybe you want to say a little bit more about that. But yeah, I guess our intention is that sharing of resources so you can see what folks are using would happen within the groups. So people would save resources. All right, so I know we're up on time, and I'm hoping we got to all your questions. If not, let us know. And yeah, thank you all so much for joining us today. Another thing that we typically do for our training is to think about engagement. So that's typically kind of how we close out these training sessions, is to do some planning around how we engage our campuses and faculty and students. So that's typically what we do next. So Barbara, we can talk about scheduling that. And I'm sure you all have a lot of thoughts about that, on what's been effective in the past, and hopefully we can support each other in thinking about how we do outreach and communicate the value of this to get folks excited to collaborate with us.
I am really thankful. I really appreciate Megan and Ahmed. Ahmed, you hadn't heard of before maybe, but he's done so much work for getting us set up and developing the whole hub site. I'm very grateful to both of you, and to ISKME, the organization that runs OER Commons. So thank you very much for this. And I've put my email address in here before. If you scroll up through there, if you have questions about what it's like to author or so on, you can ask me on that, or for speaking on the campuses. If you have questions on OER Commons, can send those. Is there a help for, Megan just put her email address there.
Yeah,
So
just in case folks wanted to reach out.
Megan there. And also for hub related issues, you can reach out to Ryan from Michelson Foundation, and he put his email address, and Ahmed did. And again, we appreciate that Michelson 20 Million Minds Foundation saw this as a need and decided to fund it for the state. And I'm so excited for all of us to now get our content up there. And I really just want to say, don't worry about making it perfect, because it's never going to be. And we're always going to be editing and adding to it. And that's the beauty of this license and the beauty of what we're doing. So it helps our students, it helps us professionally. And I'm happy to see you at the next one. Thank you.
Wonderful. Yeah. Thank you, Barbara. And yeah, just in general, you have our email addresses, but if things come up as you're using the site, you can click on this support tab here to send an email, directly to our team, and we'll follow up with you. So there's lots of support here, and we're just really excited to see what you all do. So thanks again so much for your time and work. Thank you, Barbara and Ryan and Ahmed. I'm so happy Ahmed could join us. And yeah, we're here if you need us. So, happy authoring and remixing and exploring, and we'll be in touch. Thanks, everybody.
I want to say also thank you, Barbara. It's been a pleasure working in this project with you, and we're very excited for what to come next, and here to help.
Same here. Thanks. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.